Did you actually go? Oh, sorry.
This is what I work with.
Listen, I've always said a professional workplace is job one, and then everything else falls into line after that.
Well, we're just going to dive right into the big news of the day. Paul, did you see that there's an update to Duolingo?
Nicely done.
Yeah. Just.
Oh, you mean a duo that can actually handle an announcement?
Oh, God. So, good morning, folks. Whatever day, country, time of the year, whatever. It's March 9th, 2006.
Oh, and if you're in France or Germany, the UK, or anywhere in Asia, Australia, South America,
You might want to just tune out.
yeah, you're going to be saving some money this year.
Anyway, so
Not just
Microsoft,
because of COVID.
you know, the Surface Duo is here. It's a full screen foldable display coming September 10th for the low entry price of $13.99.
You don't have a sad trombone sound you could just trigger when you say stuff like that.
My life is just my life is just the sad trombone.
Do you remember at the, I guess it was October Surface event, that Panos Panay said people were going to be surprised by the price? And he was right. He was right.
Yeah. Yep.
I thought this thing for sure would be under 1,000, and based on his comment, I moved my target lower.
Yeah.
You know,
there's no way. I mean, there's no way it could be under 1,000. I mean, it's effectively
right. So I'm sorry. If you're applying the laws of logic and physics and the cost of materials, yeah, you're right. It has two displays.
It's effectively like two mid-range phones. Well, like mid to high-range phones, sort of. Granted, you don't have two processors, but
yeah, okay.
Whatever. I mean,
yesterday you said it's like you could tape two Surface Pros together and save $100.
Yeah, it's pretty close to that.
Yeah.
Like, it is a neat device. Like, I think, but also Bugattis are also neat cars. Like in that same respect.
But that's not a great example because this thing doesn't have a race car engine in it. It doesn't have an next-gen screen that no one else has. It doesn't do anything that other devices can't do.
Yeah.
It's other devices with a folding screen, I guess. Maybe we should put it that way.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's quirky and weird. I mean, I don't know what to compare it to. If you want to stick with cars, it's like coming out with a car that still has a carburetor, but it has this fancy other thing over here. Whatever it is. I mean, it's a weird.
Wasn't the Galaxy Fold like $2,000 when it came out?
Yeah,
wrong about
yeah, it was. Yeah, that's right.
But
remember, the Galaxy Fold has one very large screen that is a screen. If you fold it, there's a screen on the outside.
Yep.
And so, or Microsoft's words, 3 screens. It's. I don't know. They're marketing this thing as having a giant 8.1-inch display, which it does not. It has 2 displays and an obvious invisible hinge in the middle, which is fine. I mean, it's whatever. It's the way they want to market. But I got to say, I talk about hubris with Apple a lot. I mean, I think there's a little bit of hubris here with Microsoft, where they're really, he writes it, he literally says this explicitly, very taken with the fact that the Surface team was able to get an iconic device into the market. All the PC makers copied it, the Surface Pro.
Mm-hmm.
They've only had success with that one device form factor.
Mm-hmm.
Aside from devices that were literally called Surface Pro, the only semi-successful Surfaces have mimicked that form factor, Surface 3 and Surface Go. The other ones have all been unsuccessful, plain and simple. You can see it in the usage figures. So they very much want to launch an icon, and so that the marketing line here is, look what we did for the laptop market. Now we're going to do it again for the market, and this is where it gets really squishy, for the device you carry in your pocket. Today we call that a phone. I think we can all agree most of us aren't sitting there talking on the phone anymore unless we're 87 years old. But we still obviously use it for phone calls and for communications, whatever. It's probably more texting and chatting. And I don't know. Here's the problem, Brad. I'm sorry to keep going on and on. But the problem is when Surface Pro launched, or Surface, right? There had been obviously tablet PCs, and they did not invent that form factor, but there wasn't really anyone pushing forward this kind of thing. today, you just mentioned Samsung. Huawei has this too. I think some other companies have these folding display devices. Now it's early. There's reliability issues and so forth. You can see the seam and everything, but that's clearly a device from the future. This thing with like a solid visible hinge in the middle and a line dividing the two displays is very clearly from the past. It's almost like a prototype you would build and say, hey, look, when we master folding screen, it's going to look like this but better,
Yeah.
Except they're selling it.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm a little.
There is, I'm intrigued by it. I actually wrote an editorial, and it was the worst headline of my life, and I will not apologize. Well, I went with it because, Paul, I woke up and I had to publish it. There was no delay, and I know you can say, well, I could have waited.
You're like, I don't know what it is. I got to go to McDonald's and get breakfast.
Yeah, the headline is, the Surface Duo hopes to be the peanut butter to the Microsoft 365 jelly, because to me, that is the only way this thing is ever going to sell in volume, is to people who, and people is probably the wrong word, not even in consumer. It's going to be in a world where somebody is trying to find the best productivity device that can fit into their little pocket and integrates into Microsoft 365. That is where the Duo lives. Now, the question is, one, is that market of any sizable value? And is it sustainable? We don't know the answer.
And by the way, does this device actually meet any needs? Right.
Yeah, that's a fair question.
The selling point to Tool Display is you have apps that Microsoft makes, some of them. Well, by the way, only a couple, but whatever. That you can have it side by side with itself, and all the different instances you might do that. You have a email app with a list of email on one side and an individual email on the other, or whatever. You can drag and drop between them. You can have two different apps side by side, maybe a web browser and a note-taking application, or whatever those two things might be. You can multitask, and at a very high level, at a very vague level, Microsoft is correct to say one of the limitations of a single screen device like a phone, especially when it's a small screen, compared to a laptop, is it's hard to do things side by side. And there are productivity tasks, and Microsoft is a productivity company, that benefit from visually being able to see two different windows at once and being able to drag between them, right? Or whatever. You're watching a video and taking notes. Or you're watching a video and reading. I don't know, whatever you're doing. But oh man, jeez.
Yeah, I keep going back to, it's an interesting device. Is it a device that's going to stick around for decades? Decades might be a long time for any device, but for years and years.
I'm sorry. I have so many thoughts in my head.
I bet you do, and you're just vomiting them all over.
So sorry. No, I am.
No, it's fine. Go ahead.
I mean, the way I am, I'm terrible. But we have the Surface Pro example, which Panos Panay brought up, and which we just discussed. The first Surface devices were pretty terrible, right?
Yeah.
Were compromised. 16:9 displays, a kickstand that only had one angle, et cetera, et cetera. They were thick and heavy. They were awkward. They were not the laptop, this tablet that could replace your laptop. That didn't happen until Surface Pro 3. Now, are we going to see 3 gens of this, where the 3rd gen is finally the one where we have a folding display? Maybe. I mean, they learned from customer experiences with the original Surface Pro and the second one what worked and what didn't work, and they adjusted, and they came out with something that was kind of iconic. By the way, in the same way, Apple gets a lot of credit for the MacBook Air. What people seem to forget is that the first MacBook Air was a piece of crap. The MacBook Air that everyone holds up as this exalted, iconic device that triggered the Ultrabook market was the second one. It wasn't the first one. The first one was terrible. So maybe, but like I said, the problem is over here on the side, we have the companies that have been involved with device making for much longer than Microsoft, Android devices anyway, making truly innovative folding screen devices, and here they come to market with folding. I mean, like a hinge, and it's like hinges were cool in the steampunk era, but there's a hinge in the fold. Yeah. They have hinges too. You just don't get to see them.
Yeah,
that's the magic.
I guess it kind of depends on what side of the fence you fall on. The fold is fine, but that plastic display is a massive turnoff to me. It's a massive.
Oh no, I don't want one either. Yes, I'm just saying if I were to bring this up to my wife, or you were to your wife, and say, look, here are the 2 devices. What do you think? One of them looks old-fashioned. That's the Surface Duo. And the other one is like, wow, look at that thing. That's like out of a science fiction movie. By the way, you'll open that thing 17 times and it will crack, or you'll get a sand grain in there and it will destroy it. Or yes, there are absolute problems with it, for sure. Microsoft's device should be, we'll see, more reliable, no doubt about it.
The other interesting pitch that they're making too, sort of along the same lines of what we saw with the Samsung device, which is that deeper integration with your phone, and it can mirror it onto this display, and you can do all that stuff. I'm not totally sold on that personally.
You know that it doesn't do everything that your phone could do. Like you actually need a Samsung device to do all. Like the Surface Duo actually doesn't do everything that Samsung does.
I'm sure it will eventually.
Yeah.
But granted, like that's not a big draw for me. Like what this device needs is Continuum, but it doesn't have, because when I was seeing how they use your phone and all that stuff, like that's kind of nice, but the problem is you still have to have a full Windows machine to be able to do that, which is not great.
This is rabbit hole territory, but we know that before the Samsung event earlier this month that Google had gone to Samsung and said, look, we want to work more closely with you. We want you to get rid of some of the things that you have on your phones that replace Google things. Let's talk about this. I thought at that time, the thing that went through my head was, Samsung has this Continuum-like thing called DeX that makes Android into a desktop environment. And I've always thought that should be an Android feature. Google previously brought Knox, which is an Android security solution, into Android. I think they should bring DeX into Android. Yeah. And that's something that would benefit this product. Now, it wouldn't be the Windows thing you're talking about, but it would be a way to dock this thing and use it as a full desktop environment with keyboard, mouse, display, etc. That would make this thing a lot more interesting. And, look, this is a throwaway line, but they mentioned it in one of the posts that Windows Virtual Desktop is a thing, right? So there are ways to get Windows app running on this device. Not that they would, it's a 5-point-whatever-inch screen. I mean, it's not going to be ideal, but as it was remote desktop into a server or something because they need to at work, having a phone or a tablet is better than having nothing. And, it supports all the touch stuff and you can do stuff. I mean, it's a solution. It's not ideal, but these things combined could turn into something interesting. I'd also like to see a bigger one like the Surface Neo.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. And I've been talking about this for a little while now, but they would never do this first gen, but I'd like to see a Surface Pro with Android, And again, this required, Microsoft said they're working with Google on improving Android for dual screen devices and blah, 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 whatever, but Microsoft can do a lot for its Microsoft 365 stuff by improving those apps to work better on big screen devices, which, by the way, they have been, and making a device like that more viable, right? Like a Surface Pro device that runs Android, but Outlook comes up and is wonderful, Word comes up and is wonderful, Excel is wonderful, would go a long way. And think about it. What are we talking about when we talk about like a Windows RT or an S mode or something where you get the Microsoft stuff and you can't really download stuff from the web? I mean, this would be better than that. In some ways,
Yep.
Still that.
We'll see. The device is available September 10th, and it's 128 or 256. The $100 difference in your pricing there, and fast charging supported.
How many colors?
What?
14 colors, different colors.
Yeah, you can get it in. The cut. You know that image you've seen of every Surface Duo?
Yeah, that color.
Yeah, that color. Actually, it's probably the exact same color as this right here.
There you go. Yep. It does come with an 18-watt fast charger.
Yep.
It does not come with wireless charging, but
it does not.
Yeah, whatever.
It is really thin too. They said it's their thinnest Surface device ever, which I should hope. It's also.
They said it was the thinnest mobile device in the market. Now, I haven't actually proven that to be false, but really, do we really think Microsoft is shipping the thinnest mobile device?
I don't know. Well, they made it so thin by ripping out wireless charging. That's
right.
It's literally, you can't do wireless charging without putting a coil in there, and so.
Yeah, but you could do it with a case. Remember, Kia used to do that.
Yeah.
Right? I mean,
used to do a lot of fun stuff.
It's something to connect it to. I don't know how that works, but anyway, Nokia used to do that.
Yeah. You can get it in the U.S. and the U.S. only. So that's going to go over well, I know.
It already has. I don't know if you've been on Twitter today, but
yeah.
I don't know if the word shitstorm has been overused. it's what we expect, I guess.
Mm-hmm. The other fun thing too that was announced, a little personal vendetta in this one. Halo Infinite has been delayed. Xbox Series X is coming in November, and so
they want to improve the graphics so that instead of looking like a Nintendo 64, it will look like a Sega Genesis. Honestly, if they're going to delay it, they are delaying it. I mean, since they're delaying it, I think the target for this thing should be ray tracing.
I think the target should be 12/31/2021 so that they can actually make it a decent game. Like that's.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Take a year, absolutely. And I don't know this off the top of my head. I wrote this in the comments somewhere, but I don't think any Halo game has ever shipped alongside a new Xbox console. I think they've always missed that date. Like, I could be wrong, but
I think the bigger issue here is that Microsoft had to have been planning that says, hey, when this console comes out, this is the game we're going to highlight. This is going to be the one that we're going to point to and through the marketing and all that.
Yeah. But come on, you watched that event, right?
Oh, yeah. No, I
wasn't your first reaction like... You ever watch The Wizard of Oz, right? The Wizard of Oz opens up, it's 4x3, it's black and white or sepia tone or whatever, and then all of a sudden she goes into Oz and it expands out and the color explodes out. I thought that's what they were going to do in that trailer. I thought they were showing us what it looks like on an Xbox One, whatever, and they were going to explode it out and say, look at what it looks like. And it just kept going and going, and I'm like, wait, is this what it looks like?
Yeah.
That was the first one they showed. I thought that was a mistake.
A little bit. And that's why it's being delayed, because whatever. I'm assuming we'll still... Well, I don't know if we'll get a Forza title, because I haven't talked...
We're not getting a Forza title. Yeah. So, I mean, we are, just not this year. Yep, that's one thing that is not coming. Yep.
So I wonder what games they're actually going to launch.
No, here's the thing. I mean, typical console launch, typical console strategy, Nintendo, Sony, Microsoft back in the day, you would have launch titles,
Right.
And they would be exclusive to that console. That's how Sony's doing it right now. If you have a PS4, you're not going to get a bunch of those games. It's just the way it is. I could be wrong, but I think even Halo Infinite, this is going to ship on Xbox One, right?
Yes.
It's not just Series X. So,
right.
If that's not the prerogative, I mean, what's the difference? I mean, does it matter if they sell a bunch of these things? I mean, look, when you do upgrade to the console, the game will look better,
Yeah.
All your games will look better or be better in some way. So maybe this is less of a concern, but I don't know. Anyway,
the thing is that they need at least one game that actually takes advantage of the higher frame rate, the ray tracing, and everything else that they're promising with this console. They need at least one.
Well, it wasn't going to have ray tracing from day one anyway, so maybe that's the bar now. It's like this should be the signature title for the Xbox Series X.
Yeah.
I think.
Anyways, we'll wait and see how that narrative plays out. The console is going on sale in November. The controller might be coming out around November 6th. So.
Yeah, I wish that was coming out sooner. I wouldn't.
They already work with the current gen consoles, so I don't know why they.
You need just to throw that out there. They could switch over that Xbox Design Lab, so they're making those controllers now.
Yep.
It'd be nice. Then they should do an Elite controller, but I guess we probably won't see that till next year, 2 years, or whatever.
The other nice thing is happening later today, provided my internet and computer don't, take a dump. We're streaming our Teams Day conference. A lot of work into that one. You'll be able to see it, I think, on the Thurrott YouTube channel, the Petri YouTube channel, the Thurrott feed.
Yeah, it's an all-day event.
Yeah.
Lots of good subject experts. You get someone from Microsoft doing the keynote, which is nice.
Yep. It's going to kick off around, I think the keynote starts at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, or if you're at Microsoft, just whenever you want.
Yeah, 3 o'clock in the morning. Welcome to our life.